Hi, I'm Ron Donaire, CEO of Intuizi, and I have with me today Can Ozdoruk, VP of Marketing at Netomi, a AI-first customer service platform trusted by Warner Brothers, WestJet, and HP, amongst lots of others, that helps companies deliver high-quality customer experiences at a large scale. Can, welcome to the Data Deep Dive.
Thank you very much, Ron. Thanks for having me here today.
Absolutely, the pleasure is ours. Can you explain a little bit about how you use data to acquire customers?
Yeah, we always use data to acquire customers. Actually, I'm not a traditional marketer, right? I have 2 engineering degrees. I worked for engineer for 5 years. So I always look at challenges from engineering perspective as well. I combine my marketing creativity with engineering data approach. So I always create unique solutions. For example, in a previous company I worked for, we were in dynamic price optimization. And we were basically, I come up with a project called a Retail Analytics Report, where I look at top 5 to 10 retailers every month on a category, let's say toys, houseware, and look at a basket of products in the market. I got like 1,000 products, and I look at all these retailers and compare them from price and assortment. Actually, one of the report actually is here with me. This is a toys report I created for Boomerang Commerce. And what I did was, every month we scrape the web for these basket of goods, and I then compare these products across the retailers from price competitiveness, and I come up with an index called price perception index, PPI, and product assortment index, how many of these products are available, so PAI. And then every month we launch these reports to our prospects. And then eventually these reports become very popular. We add additional dimensions. We do the brand analysis, like discount analysis, some subcategory analysis. And these really helped us grow my company at that time, but it wasn't the end of it, right? Basically, we also got invited to multiple tier 1 media publications, including Wall Street Journal. We were invited to Bloomberg Television. So we only like these things really increase our awareness. And today, in my current company, I'm also using data to acquire customers. This time, my current company is in customer support. So this time I use a different approach. This time I'm not scraping because customer support is consumer facing. And every month, this time we select an industry, let's say airlines, fintech, e-commerce. And my team and I, we test this industry's top players in the market. We call their support lines, we email their support lines, we use their chatbot, we use their social media. And this time we made an index called SPI, Support Performance Index. Every month we create these reports and compare the leading companies in certain verticals. Like in the previous company, this report is help us gain multiple customers. One way to acquire customers is that like they want to know what's happening in the industry. And what we learn is that we show this general report, and then when I and my team work on creating custom report for them. And so we can see how they are stacking up against everything else. And that really helped us generate so much customers. But again, to my previous example, it also helped us to get in media coverage as well. This time, Forbes wrote us multiple times among many other media companies. So data is in this front and center of how we acquire customers in my current company, in all the previous companies.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, so it seems like you use data as a way of generating some interesting content that is valuable to your prospects, so that they see you as a industry leader, so they come to rely on this data to understand what's going on. And then inevitably they want some sort of customization or something like that, where you then are able to then kind of provide very specified support to them, whether it be through a particular index modification so that it's pertinent to them, or like you said in your current customer, it's literally testing their customer support practices to index it so that you actually see how you rank across multiple different categories, competitors, things like that. That's a pretty interesting approach. That's very, very it's in my mind, it's already kind of like generating well, how can other organizations apply it to their own business? And like, here at Intuizi, we don't do something like that. We've kind of always thought that that would be something that's very interesting. So we do geospatial analytics, movement patterns of people. There are a lot of organizations that use us for account-based marketing analytics. And that actually is a really interesting thing to kind of consider, to look at competitive set, provide a content management package, something with like an index that then can be outward facing. That's a very interesting use of data on how you acquire new customers via a data set that you already have at your disposal. So that's very, very interesting.
One more thing I have to add on is that like it really helps early stage companies like Intuizi or Netomi, right? Because to sell to customers, especially I'm targeting enterprises throughout my startup life, you have to build credibility, right? Like one way to build credibility is that if you have, let's say you are targeting airlines, if you have lots of logos in your portfolio, let's say United, American, then you build some credibility. In the absence of that, data I find out to be very helpful to create that credibility, right? Like because people can always check out the data, and data don't lie, right? Data always tell the truth, and we can easily make that. And to answer your second question, how you can apply that into Intuizi, I wish there will be a secret formula. I can say use this formula, but it requires a couple of iterations. For example, I gave you 2 examples of how I use today and how I use in my previous company. These are 2 totally different reports based on my industry, based on my data. So it requires some specific experimentation, but I highly suggest you and your team take a look at big data, because big data helped me a lot to acquire customers and grow my companies.
Wow, very, very interesting. Very interesting. So that's super helpful. It's very applicable to many different industries. So there's a couple of other topics that I wanted to chat about today. One, I wanted to talk about privacy and basically data storytelling, right? So they kind of like lends itself to each other. The first is, I know you're in the B2B space, so privacy is slightly different than if you were in a direct-to-consumer capacity. But have you found any issues with marketing now that cookies are being deprecated? Apple's putting a greater emphasis on privacy and obfuscation of direct identifiers. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, definitely. That is, privacy is something we pay special attention. To your point, yes, B2B is different than B2C, like how Apple announced a couple of years ago. But B2B, there are some rules as well, right? Like a couple of years ago, we implemented GDPR and all the other regulations. So we always apply the rules based on our local that we are in. So there is no concern about, from marketing perspective, we don't spam anybody. We don't do anything without their consent. And from the product side, yeah, we work with customer support data. People give us their information. For example, in the support, you might be reaching out to your brand. Maybe your luggage was lost throughout your airlines, or then your package might be lost. So there are lots of personal information. But and we work in lots of data. We know lots of information about the consumers, but we make sure that we don't touch any of that. We only analyze it, and we don't store any PII. We don't touch any of these, and that is the requirements of selling business in enterprises. If we were somehow saving these items, we wouldn't be selling to enterprise. Like you mentioned, lots of logos that we sell into, all of them are also taking care of privacy very secretly, and we are growing in these companies thanks to our results, but also we are very careful about making sure that privacy is something that we pay attention and we don't break any privacy rules for our customers.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, we also take a very similar approach where we analyze essentially data in place that is encrypted in transit so that all PII is obfuscated, making sure that Intuizi never has possession of PII, but it's still the aggregate analysis is useful to the end consumer, which is in the enterprises that are very concerned. They have a lot more to lose than we do if something goes wrong. If you like if Delta's data got out and they're one of your clients, they're going to have a big PR problem that's going to be very, very large. So that's great. So data, we always find to be the storyteller, right? Like data doesn't lie. but you do have to kind of link the data together in a way that people can understand and digest the information and apply it to their current problem. Can you share a little bit about how you might do that with some of your clients?
Yeah, actually, data is in the center of what we help our customers. Again, we are in customer support, so we start by leveraging big data. Let me explain. Before we launch with them, we ask their previous customer support tickets. For example, when we talk to a big company, we get their last 6 months of data, how their human agents answer question and resolve it in 6 months of data. And we use this 6 month of data to train our patented AI. And our AI then is when ready, when trained, can answer question whether it is asked like in 6 months or asked in a different format. Because we have also NLP, natural language processing, we can be able to answer question if it's asked differently. So we use this data to answer question and resolve questions, or when we don't know the answer, we also listen to human agents, because we don't know the answer, we don't try to resolve, right? Then human agents, those human agents, and then we there's a concept called reinforcement learning, and we listen how human agents resolve that question, and then based on that additional input, we train our data set again, and now we are much better trained. And as the businesses grow, as we learn more, our automation rate goes from 10-15% all the way to 70-80%, because every day we learn different concepts, and eventually we go all the way to 70-80%. And this is the data is in the front and center of everything. We rely on big data and our AI capabilities to help our customers. And you ask about ROI. So one of the customers we work with, WestJet, you mentioned earlier, they have been with us the last 5 years. And as of last year, we have reached out 80% automation with them, which means that if 100 questions come, only 20 of them are handled by humans, other 80% taken care of us. I don't want to talk about the cost implications, because just you can think about that, right? If there are 100 persons answering 100 questions, how many people need to answer 20 questions? But there are other KPIs we take it very carefully. For example, in customer support, there's a KPI called CSAT, which is similar to NPS, customer satisfaction score. We increase their CSAT by 25%, and that's unheard of in this industry. And then all of our customers with a similar, give or take similar results. That's why we are continuously growing in this space.
Oh, that's incredible. It's a very good application of what you're hearing about. NLP is the darling of now, right? Where you have all of these, you have ChatGPT, you have Bard, you have all of these that are coming out that are really making it into the mainstream. And that is it's interesting that they're so popular now, because there's organizations like yours that have been doing it for such a long time at a very specific application, which at the end of the day, that's kind of what you need in business. You're always trying to solve a particular problem. I have an issue. I either need to hire more customer service agents, or I need the ones that I currently have, to be more efficient. I need to service my customers, and 80% automation is an incredible number. Like, if we can automate 80% of what we do, you're knocking that out of the park. So that's fantastic. So with these kind of like more generalized AI tools like ChatGPT and Bard, are you incorporating those specifically, or are you just using everything that you're doing in-house? Are you advising your clients to use it in a capacity? Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, actually, we have been using generative AI for a while. We were not calling generative AI, but we have been using that. But actually, we are doing more than generative AI. What we use at Netomi is sanctioned AI, which is all the goodies of generative AI that we all like, but in a fail-safe mechanism, right? Because when you are selling to enterprises, you have to be careful. That's why we put a safety net around generative AI, and using that safety net, we make sure that enterprises are always getting what they are looking for. For example, if you are, let's say Delta, to your example, if Delta is talking to a customer and Delta doesn't want to respond using what generative AI suggests, because generative AI mostly is smart, but smart as how smart is internet, right? And it's not 100% correct. So that's a safety mechanism. In our case, if we are, based on the confidence level, if we are 100% sure our answer is correct, we automatically resolve that issue without any human touch. And that's around 40% of the cases. Another 40% of the time, we are not 100% sure. Let's say we are 80% sure. And SafeNet comes into picture, which means that we don't automatically send the resolution to Delta's customer, but we draft the answer as it is ready to go, but we give it to human agents, and human agent at the end either sends it, or if they want, they can edit that or reject that, whichever they prefer, they can send it that way. So that kind of environment makes sure that AI doesn't break anything, and we only answer if we're 100% sure. That's why we want to use the term sanctioned AI rather than generative AI, which is our point of view that is applicable of generative AI into AI space.
That makes total sense. You know, we use ChatGPT here for a couple different things, and it's, you know, it has a very surface level understanding of a lot of things, but once you start to get into very finite, you know, domain expertise, it starts to lose its luster, especially because it does require, you know, it's like it gets you 85 to 90% of the way there, but that extra 10% can mean the difference between success and failure. And it still requires that human element of being able to navigate complex issues, applicability. There's maybe things that weren't added into the prompt that were a human would interpret and read between the lines, maybe tone of voice, things like that, that generative AI just doesn't do yet. Maybe one day it'll get there, but it's not there yet. And you're right, it does need a safety net. It does need to be fully understood on what data it was trained on, because otherwise you're just enforcing biases and things of that nature, not just in people, but like in assumptions. So that can be very, very dangerous. So all right, so I guess just in a very simple statement, what do you think about the state of generative AI right now?
I think it is game changing. I believe that it is going to change the world as we know it. I don't think it's going to be a hype like we have seen with crypto or others. I liken generative AI to like internet 20 years ago. Basically, now things will be changed differently. So it applies to all the verticals. In consumer space, yes, we can write a better poems because of ChatGPT, but in enterprise, that additional 10% is still not there. So it's going to be there, then it's going to change everything. But also it applies to all of our industries. Like one example is customer support. Netomi is part of this industry, but also there are lots of areas. For example, in marketing, there are companies called like Jasper who have been doing that for a while, and they're going to get more, because Gartner says only 1% of the current content is developed by AI. It will be 50% in a couple of years. Or I was, and lots of the things that we know is going to change because of that. I also have some background in hardware, and I met another company like a couple of weeks ago. They are called Sambanova. They are chip manufacturer like Intel and Nvidia. Now they design chips not based on what hardware is, but based on AI. So every time that new AI comes, different model, they create different chips based on the software. It's not the top-down approach, it's bottom-down approach. So lots of things, as we know, is going to change in the near future, and lots of industries is going to be changed, and lots of people will be, I think, impacted from that. I think I'm very excited because lots of good things to happen in the next to 1 to 3 years, in my opinion.
Most definitely. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on the show today. It's been super informative. If somebody wanted to get in touch with you, what's the best way of doing so?
Definitely. First of all, I'm on LinkedIn with Can Ozdoruk. I'm the only Can Ozdoruk in the entire world, so LinkedIn is the best way. But I'm also in email. So Can, C-A-N, @netomi.com is the second way to reach out to me.
Fantastic. Well, that is a wrap. Thank you again for joining us this week. Join us again next week for another informative session on the Data Deep Dive.
Thank you very much, Ron.